they really go from one big open world, enter that rift, and it's a whole other big open world. That is ridiculous. So I've talked about this topic, of PS5 in various places, whether it be streams, Twitter, or even in my Discord, right? But I've never had like a discussion, a complete discussion, should I say, where we need to have it, and that would be on YouTube. So that's what we gotta do today. The base of this topic is this. If we're listening and believing in the management over at PlayStation, the PS5 launch is going to be like no other. And coming back to the roots of PlayStation, you could say. Variety, many things to enjoy on release, contrary to PS4, and the biggest piece, which separates it from the Xbox Series X, exclusives. And that wasn't a shot, guys. I'm not taking a shot at Xbox with that statement. What I meant was there will be games that are only playable on PS5. Not even a PS4, which is contrary to what the Xbox is marketing right now. We're talking about early in the PS5's life cycle when usually games are cross-generation. So let's tackle this topic from the order that I mentioned it, right? So let's start off with the PS5's launch. If we want to properly understand what Jim Ryan has been telling us about the PS5's launch, I think we should take a little step back and look at the PS4's launch, and then briefly look at the PS3's launch. But before we do that, let's hear what Jim Ryan has told us thus far. Firstly, Jim has a firm stance and goal to maximize the transition of the PS4 community onto the PS5 as early as possible. As we move towards the next generation in 2020, one of our tasks, probably our main task, is to take that community and transition it from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5 at a scale and pace that we've never delivered on before. One thing that makes me particularly optimistic that what we've been hearing from developers and publishers is the ease in which they are able to get code running on PlayStation 5 is way beyond any experience they've had on any PlayStation platform. This remark gets me thinking that he wants to talk with their games, right? Not try to market, have all this fluffy razz about, no, nothing about that. Just talk with the games. Ryan says he's confident in what PS5 has to bring. There is plenty more to announce beyond what has been shared this year, and he's personally focused on the games that will make or break PlayStation 5, just as they do every platform. Yet to really deliver on its promise, Ryan says PlayStation simply had to globalize. When we look at this transition and the ambition to do things at a scale and pace that we haven't seen, we have to look at ourselves and make certain changes, some of which are in the ways we work, and some in the ways we organize. If you caught that, the nature of this article revolved around how PlayStation is transitioning into a true global company. So let's take a look at what we've experienced thus far. This article from IGN breaks down what we got on the PlayStation 4 day one, and then launch window games. Trimming the fat from all these multi-plats and just less important games because they're kind of PS3 games, we see Killzone Shadowfall and Knack being the two notable true PS4 exclusives. And then for launch window, which as you can see IGN classifies as between day one and the end of March 2014 as a launch window, we see that Firstly Jive Club, which is one of them, was actually originally supposed to be a launch title, but it did get delayed to early 2014, so therefore that is the first title we have. I would say Deep Down, but as you know, that game's nowhere to be found. And so the next is Infamous Second Son, and honestly, I guess Octodad, and then I guess Oddworld as well. I actually didn't count that in my script, but I just noticed that now. That should definitely be an exclusive. So there you go. That's 4, right? That's 4. And then off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of anything big that came after that, and really all I can think about is Bloodborne in 2015. That's wild, So now PS3, if we take a quick peek, I can't even tell what's an actual exclusive here, bro. I mean, maybe Marvel Ultimate Alliance, although that's not likely. Maybe Mobile Suit Gundam. Resistance Fall of Man is 100%. Why do I feel like this was an exclusive? I don't know. And bro, other than that, I don't know, bro. Like, I think that's it. For all you care, it could just be Resistance. But I don't know. So now, to look at what we know 4 to 5 months prior to release. And with the notion that there are still more PlayStation events confirmed to happen between this 4 to 5 month period that will release, or should I say show, more games day one and exclusives, launch windows, this is what we can work with for now. If we talk about day one console exclusive, we have the two juggernauts, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. I was trying to highlight it. It's not like, oh, there it is. And then Godfall, right? So those are just day one AAA titles that we know. And if we look at AA and then indies, we have Astro's Playroom exclusive. We have Jet the Far Shore exclusive. Bug Snacks, Deathloop, I believe, are all the exclusives confirmed for day one. So with that, we're already far better off than what the PS4 had. And that's not even including the launch window titles that we've seen. If I was supposed to kind of label all of those out, it would be Horizon 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Gran Turismo 7, Project Athia, Demon's Souls, Pragmata, Little Devil Inside, Solar Ash, Ghostwire Tokyo, Goodbye Volcano High, Kena Bridge of Spirits, Oddworld Soulstorm, Sackboy Big Adventure, Destruction All-Stars Eternal, and Stray. 16 titles that should most likely release in the first fiscal year of the PlayStation 5. And if it's not the first fiscal year, it's going to be soon after, right? I feel like most of the games I just labeled are at least 2021 games. Project Athia, maybe not. It's still a working freaking title, but all the others, I would believe so. And please understand that everything that I mentioned are either exclusive or timed exclusive. The fact that we saw live real gameplay of every single game that I just mentioned really makes me believe that those will be launch window games. And of course, that's on top of the two juggernauts that are our day one releases, Spider-Man Miles Morales and Godfall. Godfall itself, I'm very interested in, and it's more of a long-running game, games as a service, I believe it's going to be. Looter, what they call it? It's not looter shooter, looter, what they call it? I think they call it looter slasher. That's what it is. And so this ties into the next pillar of our topic, variety. This is interesting because back in the day, at least it was more clear back then, Sony was known for their variety. And what I mean by more clear, it's like back then it was the first party studios that were making a lot of variety in their games, not so much the climate of PlayStation as a whole. Because as it is, we know PlayStation to be a king for second party exclusives that add that variety that for this generation, I guess specifically speaking, they kind of made up for worldwide studios not having much variety in their games. But the good part about all of this is that the PS5 is already off to a good start. For the launch lineup, we have story driven Spider-Man, Horizon 2, Juggernauts. We have multiplayer based, Godfall, just to name one, platformer, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and then the indie love that we saw in the middle of this generation. So looking to our new head of Worldwide Studios, what Hermen Hulst has already said is already what we're seeing, what we're perceiving. And just that statement I made right there falls in line with what I started out this video with, what Jim Ryan is saying. They want to talk with their games, not their mouths. So we read this quote from what I think is the first and only interview that we've had of the new Worldwide Studios president, Hermen Hulst. And as you can see, it was done by the PlayStation blog, or should I say Sid Schumann, who runs the blog, also my boy. So Sid asks, is there anything you can tell us about your vision for the future of Worldwide Studios, whether it's going into next generation or beyond? And then Hermen says, we're very committed to dedicated hardware as we were before. We're going to continue to do that. And we're very committed to quality exclusives and to strong narrative-driven single-player games. He says that because he's teeing up his next phrase. At the same time, we're going to be very open to experimentation, to new ideas, just trying things out to see what works. I think that's also very much part of the DNA of Worldwide Studios. Preach, dog, preach. To me, this sounds like we're going back to the PS3 era. During that time, PlayStation was just shitting out games. A lot of them flopped but they just kept shitting them out. Yo, we had two, not one, but two first-party, first-person shooters. And the best part about it is both of them were distinct. They both had two different things to offer on the table. Along with the greatest PS3 game in existence, Little Big Planet 2, yes sir. And then the undisputed GOATs. Maybe the downfall of PlayStation because they were so good that they started making everything like them. The Last of Us and the Uncharted series. And that's just me naming top brands, right? That's it. Because there was a lot of other stuff. Oh my god! They had their own fighter! All-Stars! The better version of Smack. My goodness. That is not a part of the script, bro. Take two, roll it. Personally, bro, we're gonna see an Ape Escape this generation. I'm telling you. Some shit's going on, we're gonna make a video on it, but we're still gonna see it. Bet me, bro. And when it happens, this generation, that'll make this generation the greatest ever since the PS2 era. Facts. Stop talking to me. So the last area of this topic is exclusives. We touched on this a bit at the start, but you know, basically the path Sony's taking is just straight up different than what Xbox is doing. If you ask me, I think the path that they're taking, Sony, is the proper path and the path that the fans deserve. While Xbox's Play Anywhere is definitely a cool and respectable concept, so bravo and props to them. It just, to me, I'm like, if you do that, what urge do I have to go purchase the Xbox Series X? If they want these Xbox Series X games to also be compatible on an Xbox One, tell me what reason I have to go out and purchase a Series X. Everything I can play on my normal Xbox One. More frames, 4K, maybe, but at the end of the day, we can do that right now. PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, they can already do those things. Not every time, but it's not actually new. It still feels like this gen. One way to keep PS4 users engaged would be to make upcoming PS5 games playable on the older machine, just like Microsoft is proposing with its Xbox Series X games being playable on Xbox One. Yet Ryan says that's not something PlayStation is interested in doing. We have always said that we believe in generations. We believe that when you go to all the trouble of creating a next-gen console, that it should include features and benefits that the previous generation does not include. And that, in our view, people should make games that can make the most of those features. We do believe in generations, and whether it's the DualSense controller, whether it's the 3D audio, whether it's the multiple ways that the SSD can be used, we are thinking that it is time to give the PlayStation community something new, something different that can really only be enjoyed on PS5. Both concepts are respectable to me. Keeping your user base connected, pleasing early adopters with a proper generational leap in a gaming experience. And at the end of the day, we have our first tangible and real example of the latter if we don't count the Unreal Engine 5 demo, that being Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is a game that utilizes dimensions and dimensional rifts, and that would not have been possible without the solid-state drive of the PlayStation 5. The SSD is screamingly fast. That's an interesting word to use. It allows us to build worlds and project players from one place to another in near instantaneous speeds. It is an unbelievable game changer in terms of we can now do gameplay where you're in one world, the next moment you're in another. We're loading up levels that happen so quickly and in the action that you don't even imagine that this is something we couldn't do before because it feels so natural. Long gone are the loading screens. Now it's all about bringing exciting new adventures. I want you to really understand what he says right there. We're loading up levels that happen so quickly and in the action that you don't even imagine that this is something we couldn't do before because it feels so natural. That is exactly how I perceived that Ratchet & Clank trailer. Nobody understands what was actually going on. I think some people do, but like you don't really feel it because it's like he said, it looks so natural, it looks so seamless. But they really go from one big open world, enter that rift, and it's a whole other big open world. That is ridiculous. So what's interesting, obviously they're not going to say it, but they don't explicitly say something like the Xbox Series X can't do this, right? But if we were able to understand how much they pushed the SSD to make that whole thing happen, And with the idea that the PS5's SSD is the fastest, or whether you want to say most efficient SSD in the world right now, it's not crazy to think that the Xbox Series X couldn't accomplish that. It's not crazy. Meaning, in the first time, and maybe forever, we have a potential situation where a company can choose to make an exclusive game, or should I say a game exclusive to PS5, simply off the strength that other systems can't handle it. Let that sink in. And I'm talking PC, at least for the first few years. Now I'm talking reckless with that. With that being said, that's all I gotta say. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please be sure to leave a like, subscribe, because I am in next generation mode, my boy. So I will see you all in the next video. Peace. God damn, that was fire, dog.